Miss WOC Reader, and welcome back to my channel. This video was inspired by a TikTok somebody sent me where it was a black creator, and they said they were talking to someone else who said that they only give 5-star ratings to black books even if they didn't love the book or not. And that just like mind was blown listening to that for me personally, because I just don't understand it. My first thing is, who does that help? I know there's this thing called Reviewer Guild where we just really want these books to succeed just because the author is black. But I'm at the point now where I'm just like, I don't want everybody black to succeed, because everybody black is not for the black community, which is a whole other discussion and something I've talked about on this channel before. But also, every book is not inherently good to deserve high praise. Some of these books have some really problematic things that a lot of times people don't even realize until they hear other people start talking about it in depth. Because sometimes you could be reading a book and you could glaze over it. Sometimes maybe you're listening to the audiobook and you get distracted and you miss something. Maybe you're just like mindlessly flipping, you're not as engaged with the story, and or maybe like you just don't recognize how something looks until somebody speaks out, which is one of the reasons why I love my channel and the people who like to come and engage with me, because we have these great discussions and we get to share different perspectives on so many stories. And so that is just one important factor for me for why we need to have fair ratings. Like, I can't just blindly give something a 5-star just because the author is black. Like, everything is not a 5-star book. And I feel like if I were to start just giving everything a 5-star or like a high 4, people just would disengage from my content. I've unfollowed people because they only seem to rate every book they read positively. And I know when you've been reading for a while, you start to discover what you like and enjoy, and it's easier to find books that you love. But at the same time, even if a book claims to have all the elements in it that you usually enjoy, that doesn't mean you're going to love that book. It does not mean you're going to love that book. I frequently pick up things that have everything I think I should want in a book, and then I read the book and it's a disappointment. And especially if you're reading like me, where you're reading hundreds of books a year, every book is just not going to be a banger. And so I've unfollowed people because I just started skipping over their content, because I'm like, they say the same thing in every review. Every book gets around the same rating. Like, I'm bored. I need them to tell me something that I can get that's not in the synopsis on the back of the book. Like, I want to be able to find people I can have book discussions with, because that's really why I ended up joining this online book community that I've been in for 5 years now. Can you believe it? It's been that long. But I wanted to talk about the books I was reading, not just like negatively talk about them, but praise books down too that I was reading. And I love just hearing people's perspective, like trying to see what they see in a book, like hearing just how different people talk too about books. Because there's people I am mutuals with where I'm just like, I will never take a recommendation for you because I find your taste to be terrible and I don't understand what you see in books, but I like the way you talk about certain books, so that's why I will continue to follow you. And then there's people like that I've had to unfollow because I'm like, I'm not really engaged with the way you're talking about certain books. For me, as somebody who is both a writer working on their own series and a reader, I try to find that balance, because now I'm getting into where I have like friends who are releasing books, and that becomes a tricky situation when they want you to read their books. So I make sure I disclose when I'm reading somebody's book who I'm friends with, but sometimes I just won't like discuss that book depending on what book it is. If I don't think that I'm going to be able to give you guys an honest opinion, because I don't want to lie either. I feel like the lies eventually kick on to you, and I noticed that a lot the past couple of years when we were reaching like peak toxic positivity in the book community. People would be saying one thing on the timeline about a book, and then in the DMs it would be a whole different story. And I'm just like, well, why didn't you say that like on the timeline? It was because like the book matched their aesthetic, so they wanted to praise the book down because they wanted to put out this pretty content, and they didn't want to put out this pretty content attached to a negative review, or they like this author's vibe. And we are in peak vibe right now where I feel like publishing is kind of stagnant because they keep picking up the same types of books over and over again, but also readers keep pushing for the same types of books too because of certain vibes. They'll read a book and the book is not good at all. Be like, yeah, the writing sucked, yeah, the characters were underdeveloped, the romance had no chemistry, but I had fun, so 5 stars. And I'm just like, sounds like a 3 to me. But that's just me. And I don't think that authors can really grow if we're not giving honest feedback. Like, I remember people used to say authors don't need reviews because they can get the feedback from their agents and their editors. Agents and editors are not giving out the feedback that they need. Your agent and editor's job is to sell your book. They are going to believe in your book. They are going to act like it is the best thing since sliced bread because they really want to push your book. Where the real feedback starts to come in is when the general public starts reading it and gives their opinions. And that's not to say like authors need to be going and reading reviews. Some people cannot read reviews for their own mental health. Some people just feel very combative. Like, some reviews can be quite nasty, so I do tell people to avoid them and maybe have somebody who can filter out the good and the bad for them. But feedback, honest feedback is important. Like, being in different writer spaces the past couple of years too, I've noticed that when people get comfortable with their beta readers and their beta readers become their friends, they are also not that helpful because they don't tell them when their writing sucks. They don't tell them when the writing just isn't hitting. They don't tell them when there's like plot holes in the story. And then the book gets published and gets torn apart. And there's a way to review a book and give feedback without tearing it apart. It doesn't have to be the extreme of either high praise, nothing's wrong with it, or just like completely trashing it. There can be a happy middle where you are listing what you like and what worked for you, and like you are listing the things that you could not stand and why they didn't work for you. I try to tell you guys what didn't work for me in a book while also sprinkling in what did. Like, I would, like, for example, if I read this farm set romance recently, and what I liked about it was the closeness of the small town. I thought it had some very humorous moments, but the romance for me actually fell flat because the like the characters felt very thrown together, and I feel like the deeper conversations didn't come until after they were already declaring their love for each other. So it was hard for me to really connect with them. Something like that, where I'm giving some positivity, but I'm also telling you something that didn't quite work for you. And at the end of the day, my word is not gospel. I want you to go out and read books for yourself and see what they're about. For me personally, 2024 is my worst reading year because while I'm reading hundreds of books like I always do, I haven't had as many standouts. I haven't had as many that I enjoyed, whether it be trad or indie pop, because the indie ones that I read weren't great either. And I think part of that is just everybody is chasing trends. Everybody is trying to write the same types of stories. And maybe everybody's not getting the feedback that they need to improve. I've been finding issues with the pacing in so many books, so that's one thing you will see me talking about a lot in reviews, is just like, this book wasn't paced well. And there are certain questions when you're writing your book you need to ask yourself, like, what is the character's main motivation? You have to kind of ask, what is the purpose for you writing this story? And I feel like for people, like, their purpose for writing the story a lot of times is just like, well, you know, I like these vibes, so I wanted to put it into a book. And I'm like, okay, but beyond vibes, beyond you loving another book that you kind of want to replicate, why do we need to tell this story? There are so many books I feel like are getting a free pass just because people are like, well, you know, the writing was okay, and the plot didn't really make sense, and it was kind of long, but I had fun, so 5 stars. And I can't do that. I can't do that because life is too short to waste my time on bad books. So if I am managing to finish your book and your book was like 3, 4, 500 pages, you are going to get my full thoughts because I spent a lot of time sitting with your book trying to love it, when I could have spent that time doing something else. I could have spent that time writing. I could have spent that time reading another book. My TBR is endless. I real like, my time is important. And so I'm going to give my thoughts, and I don't care who likes it or not. Because people do that too, where like, if you critique certain books, their stands get really angry and they try to like shut down like any discussion that isn't, oh my gosh, this book was amazing, I loved it so much. So that's why I try to make my platforms a stand free zone. I don't care what you love. If I didn't love this, I want to talk about it. And so if you don't like those terms, you can go. This isn't the space for you. Because again, every book is not a hit. Every book is not going to be a timeless classic. And I'm in this community because I do love talking about writing. I think we're all here because we obsess about books a little bit more than the average person. And we were looking for people similar to us. And we can't have those honest conversations if we're so afraid of hurting the author's feelings or hurting some fans' feelings, or just feeling like, well, this book is popular among everybody else, so we need to rate it highly. Some books are just style over substance, and that's okay if that's your vibe. But like, just admit, like, it's the aesthetic is what you liked about the book. Like, everything is not a masterpiece. And that's something that I've gotten a lot more and more comfortable with, is just like giving my opinion, but not in like a mean way. Like I try to never say this book is trash in a review. That's just something that I set for myself, where I'm just like, I am going to use my words. So even if the book was trash, I'm going to talk it out. This is the things I didn't like. The writing wasn't good. The characters weren't good. Like, what the hell was going on with this plot? Like, was the author asleep? Like, I'm trying to say things in a way where I'm just not dogpiling, but I'm also making it clear, like, this book was not a fave. And there are books, a lot of books I would say I read this year were just relatively okay. Like, I can tell you, this is where I stopped really caring what happened in this story. This is where they kind of lost me. I would have loved to see this character do this. I would have loved more backstory here. I like to have those discussions too with people to figure out, like, how could this have been better? And it's healthy to talk about books in that way. As we move into like more of a less literate society, I think it's important that we are honest when we're engaging with books, because there's really a push to kind of dumb everything down right now, to like make it more digestible, to have everything feel the same, and I hate that. I hate that for us, and I'm hoping we can continue to express ourselves in so many ways and move away from that. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. Do you write negative reviews? If you do, like, do you write them for popular books? If you like this video, make sure and hit that like button. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!